One of them flies across the room to open the closet, finding the old men. Panicking, Ben and his friends immediately run back to the retirement home and ask the employees to call the police, but they don't believe the story. Joe's wife Alma yells at them until they call the authorities, but when a cop arrives at the vacation house, Walter blames it all on the senile minds of old people and promises he won't press charges as long as the men don't break in again. For the next few days, the men feel sad and bored because they've lost the pool. To make matters worse, Joe's cancer returns. Ben visits Walter and explains the situation, swearing that they only want to swim and won't touch the cocoons. Touched by Ben's determination to save his friend, Walter gives them permission to use the pool. That afternoon the men invite their wives to come to the pool too. However, Bernie refuses to go anywhere near the aliens and doesn't let his wife go there. The rest of the group has lots of fun in the water and soon they're regaining their energy. When the aliens come back from diving, they casually say hi as if they were old friends. The water heals Ben's sight and he renews his driving license. Now the group can go out at night and visit various modern bars all over town, where Joe surprises them with his dance moves. They play games on the beach, join more of the retirement home's activities, and have fun even when they're shopping. Mary can climb trees with David and the aliens even agree to play cards with them. Sometimes the other elderly residents ask them about their newfound youth, but the group always keeps the secret. In the meantime, Jack and Kitty spend a lot of time together and one night they go swimming with the dolphins. Jack wants to get dirty with her but her anatomy is different, so she shows him how her species shows affection. Both of them get in the pool with no clothes and Kitty starts glowing. She gathers this glow outside her body and after it bounces all over the room it enters Jack's body through his chest. This gives him a pleasant feeling similar to the climax of Getting Naughty. A few nights later the rejuvenated group wins a bowling tournament and Ben worries their showing off may get people's attention. Everyone goes home except for Joe, who picks up a woman at the ice cream parlor. It's revealed they've been having an affair and Alma finally catches on. When Joe returns to the retirement home, he sees Alma leaving and tries to convince her to stay. Alma refuses to listen to him and after a short argument, she moves to Best Place. The next day during lunch Joe takes out his frustration on Bernie, telling him he would bring his wife to the pool if he really loved her. An argument ensues and everyone in the room hears Bernie mention a mountain of youth. Bernie tells Joe this attitude is why Alma left him and Joe gets so angry he tries to punch him, but a security guard cuts in and gets punched instead. When a second guard comes to help Joe begins to beat him up too and doesn't stop until Art pulls him away. After hearing the argument, the other seniors realize the secret is in the pool in the vacation house. A large group of old people leave the retirement home and bring down the old fence to rush into the pool, where they start swimming and splashing without being careful around the cocoons. They even use one as a toy. At that moment Walter comes in and yells to kick them out. When nobody reacts, he threatens to call the police, which finally makes them all leave. Afterward the aliens open the cocoons and discover that the old people used all of the pool's healing energy, so the aliens in the cocoons are now all shriveled and almost dead. Walter announces they won't be able to help them and is surprised to notice his human disguise cry. Meanwhile Bernie brings some medicine for his wife only to discover she's died. The grief hits him so hard that he picks up the body and takes her to the pool to try to revive her, but since the water lost its power it doesn't work. Walter finds him and apologizes for being unable to help. Minutes later an ambulance arrives to take the body and Ben decides to visit Walter to apologize in the name of his community. Walter explains he never felt grief before because his species is immortal, yet now there are 2 dead aliens in the cocoons. He wants to put the rest of the cocoons back in the ocean so they can sleep again until he can come back with more power, but there's no time because he and his crew must fly home the next day. Determined to make up for his mistake, Ben gathers a bunch of his friends and together they put the cocoons in the boat. Jack takes them to the right spot and the seniors are given diving equipment so they can help take the cocoons back to the Atlantis ruins too. The cocoons are well hidden while the dolphins swim around them. Once the whole process is done, Walter points out that since he couldn't rescue his friends, there's extra room in the spaceship. If the old humans want, they can leave Earth and start a new eternal life on the alien planet. The seniors agree but first they have to prepare a few things. Ben tells David he and Mary are leaving and David won't be able to visit them ever again. When David asks why and Ben mentions outer space, the boy doesn't believe him. Mary hugs her daughter Susan and David one last time as a final goodbye, but she doesn't cry until they're far enough. Art takes all his savings from the bank and starts giving them away to random people on the street, then he gets married to Bess. Joe visits Alma to tell her about the aliens' offer. He explains he wants to go, but if Alma doesn't, then he'd rather stay here with cancer to wait for the end with her. Feeling bad for him, Alma agrees to go. The rest of the residents are also told about the offer and most of them agree to go. They wait for the employees to fall asleep and sneak out of the building without making any noise. While they board the boat, Bernie shows up to say goodbye because he's chosen to stay. Unfortunately Jack can't start the boat so they'll have to wait for him to do some repairs. At the same time Susan notices David is crying while waiting for another eclipse and wonders if he knows why her parents were behaving weirdly, but he refuses to tell. A worried Susan decides to visit the retirement home and when the security guard goes looking for Ben and Mary, he discovers all the beds are empty. He immediately calls the police, who start searching the area with Susan's help. However, David sees the boat finally taking off and runs down the harbor, jumping at the last second to join his grandparents. The cops think it's a kidnapping and alert the Coast Guard. Soon choppers and more boats are going after the group. Jack pushes his boat to go faster and a chase begins as the cops threaten to come aboard. Realizing he's putting his grandparents in danger, David gives them a last hug before jumping into the water. The Coast Guard concentrates on saving the kid and Jack's boat gets to leave without issues. When the eclipse finally begins, a spaceship appears in the sky and creates a thick fog to keep the Coast Guard at bay. In the middle of this fog, the spaceship turns on a bright light to find Jack's ship. Walter pays him way more than they agreed so he can buy a new boat and thanks him for being a good friend. Jack hugs Walter and kisses Kitty, who promises to visit the next time they come to Earth. At that moment, the spaceship's light beam begins lifting the boat, so Jack jumps into the water and leaves in a life raft. With the fog covering their escape, the aliens and the elderly are taken into the big spaceship, which quickly flies off into space. The next morning, a funeral is held for all the old people that supposedly were lost at sea. Susan cries for her parents, but David looks at the sky, finally believing Ben's story. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.